Nigel Turner, in his Christian Words, very distinguished exegete and Greek scholar, now deceased, now dead, and he suggests that that word logikos, that's Logikos, logikos, it's related to the word logos, which is word. So it's perfectly reasonable, and it may not be right. I'm not guaranteeing this, but just reasonable service is a bit vague for me. I think he's talking about his service for the word service. And the word in the New Testament is always the gospel, word of the kingdom. So reasonable is possible. Paul might finally tell us that's what he meant exactly. On the other hand, it's been argued by a number of scholars that it ought to be more literally than to do with the word. So I risked that. If it turned out to be wrong, not going to affect anything dramatically, but I think it's a gospel sort of word, logikos, rather than just reasonable or spiritual is not right. Pneumatikos would be spiritual, but this is logikos, the adjective from logos. And since logos has to do with the gospel, I ventured that as a very reasonable thing. I don't think Paul would argue with that, by the way. Even if it wasn't exactly what he meant in mind, he'd said, fine, that's great. That's near enough. No translation is perfectly right. They're all wrong in some places. Most translations are probably 97% correct anyway. Doesn't matter what translation. Some of them are worse than others. For example, where the NIV, the so-called nearly inspired version, humorously so called, it says that Jesus went back to the Father 3 times in John. Jesus went back to the Father. That's just false. Nothing about Jesus going back to the Father. He hadn't been to the Father yet. So there are some grand errors in some of the popular translations. NIV is particularly Trinitarian. The NASU is better. RSV, NRSV, even the Roman Catholic Bible done by scholars of Protestants and Catholics, the NAB is a beautiful translation. And there are many beautiful paraphrases. You should have them alongside too. And then you make your best judgment. But these are not, as Carlos said rightly, these are not issues of whether you get saved or not saved.